member-run gallery. So we have one full-time employee, wonderful Rob. Everybody else here is volunteers. We have just shy of 200 members right now. So that's all of the art that you see up here every single month. So we encourage you to always keep coming back and seeing what's new. And my other volunteer job I do is I'm the workshop coordinator. So I have to tell you about the workshop. So our July and August children's workshops are all full. It's summertime, so those fill up pretty quickly. But I've got some spots for the adult class. Next Saturday, a week from today, Q class, oh my gouache. So it's a gouache class, and it's a visiting instructor from Talent, Oregon. So we've got a few seats for that. So if you've ever wondered about that, if you want to talk to me afterwards, I can explain to you what it is. So that's going to be exciting, a week from today. And then in August, we've got a fiber class called Wet Felted Pinch Pots. And that's also a visiting artist. She's coming all the way from Eugene. And she assures me it is beginner friendly, but if you look at some of the images on the flyer, they're just the cutest thing. So that's kind of exciting. So you can always check our website to see what's coming up, and we're always encouraging folks to become members. If you're a member, you get the cheaper rate on the workshop. So that's my public service announcement. But for my job today, they've asked me to interview this man. They think I know him the best because I'm his wife. And we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. Well says it feels like 100. So why don't we start out, for folks that don't know you, I think that probably the first thing that people would notice is your accent does not sound like Oregon. So where are you from and how did you end up in Brookings?
Well, I'm from Texas. Frisco, Texas, and before that, South Africa. So that's where I'm originally from. And I was born there. So I'm African, South African.
You're not going to tell the African-American joke, are you?
Yeah, so I have a kindred spirit with African elements. Buffaloes, water buffaloes, I like them too. So,
how'd you get to Brookings from South Africa?
how did I get to Brookings? Well, that was a long flight. But anyhow, we lived in Dallas and I had retired. I had a long career and decided to retire and I wanted to paint. And there's no sea in Dallas, so I was very keen on moving around the country. And we ended up in California just on holidays, vacations, and eventually ended up in Brookings. And I looked at the map and I thought, well, you know, there's nothing out here north of California. I wonder what it's like, because I like the wild coast. That's what I used to paint back in South Africa, wild coast, the open coast. And eventually we came on vacation here, and one day I said to Natalie, why don't we just move there? And we ended up moving.
So you mentioned the wild coast and the similarities between...
Yeah, there's similarities between the Oregon coast and the wild coast in South Africa. You've got sea stacks, you've got nice mountains, and that's what I like. Now, having lived in Texas and going down to Galveston, I can assure you there are no mountains down there. It's just flat. So yeah, so I like it here. This is what I paint. I like painting here, sure.
So how long have you been painting? Did you always
So I started painting in 1981, which was what, 36 years ago.
40 years?
More than that. I started out with pastels, and I was introduced to the media by a fellow artist. He was a friend, and he said, why don't you try this? Because I've been trying watercolors, and I thought, I don't like stretching paper and messing around with the liquid and the mess. So he said, well, try pastels. And he was doing beautiful pastels at the time. So I gave it a go, and he said, well, if you can do 5 paintings, you can join me on an exhibition. So I did that. I did 5 paintings and joined him on the exhibition. And sold 3 paintings during that exhibition. So that was a motivator for me, and I thought, well, I think I can do this. And the very first painting I ever sold was not a seascape. It was a shack in Pilgrim's Rest. It was an old miner's shack. And it was a historical building. So I painted that, and a wildlife conservationist by the name of Clyde Walker bought the painting. And he had written books and magazine articles over the years. It was quite an honor to have sold, you know, my very first painting to someone that was a conservationist, because I always liked conservational type approaches to looking after wildlife, especially elephants. And after that, I was introduced to the Artist Market Association of Southern Africa, and that's a group of people that have exhibitions, regular exhibitions, and it's very dynamic. You have a lot of tourists that come along, and you sell work like, I mean, if you're an artist, you go there, you exhibit, you're going to sell. So over the years, I think I sold about 8 to 12 paintings a month, and that kept me busy. So I learned to paint a little fast, horrifically, I guess. But I paint in the evenings when I go home. I just spend an hour or 2 painting. And
So this wasn't your full-time job?
That wasn't my full-time job. I worked for computer sciences, and that was a career. So I kept that. There's no ways I was going to be a starving artist. And I did that for 15 years, and then I cooled down a bit. I had other responsibilities to take care of, so I just worked on commissions. And funny enough, I got so many commissions, I mean, that kept me busy. And eventually I ended up in the US.
So you're predominantly known for seascapes.
Yes.
Why do you gravitate towards that?
Well, that's how I got into the Artist Market Association. So I tried to get in the first shot, so I approached them and said, look, I'm an artist, I'd like to join the association. They said, oh, come back next year, we thought. I said, well, I have some paintings in my car. If you can just take a look and tell me whether I stand a chance of getting in, and whether I need to even bother coming back in a year's time. So they said, fine, bring the paintings, put them out, and they had a look, and then there were 2 people looking at this, and they was looking at the president and his wife, and they called a few other people, and they had a look at them, and they were discussing things, and then he came up to me, and he's nodded, he says, you don't have to wait. He said, there's nobody doing seascapes, there's nobody doing pastel seascapes, so we'll put you in, we'll get you in somehow. So that's how I started.
So you did a lot of, so you had an interesting story, I think, about the guy who says, do you know me?
Oh, yes. See, I had some experiences with people, and I just love people who love art, because they have interesting backgrounds themselves. So this person was an American. He bought this painting from me, and he paid in dollars. I remember him very well. He had no rands with him. I said, I'll take dollars. And then he said, do you know who I am? I said, no, I don't. He said, well, I'm an astronaut. He says, I'm one of the astronauts that's been to the moon. I didn't know what to say. Pleased to meet you. And that's because in South Africa we got one TV station, and that's it. And you don't see things like in NASA stuff. It's a local channel. So anyhow, that was an experience. Selling to an astronaut from Florida, and now there's been a few of them.
So how about the media? Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to work with the materials and maybe your technique a little bit?
work on
Without
pastel
divulging your
board.
secrets.
Pastel board that I painted on. It's a new product, it's only been out a short while, a couple of years. And it enables you to layer, so you can put more than one layer of pastel down. So you put it on, you can work over it. And you can put several layers over without it smudging. But the dark colours I tend to work wet. So I work with alcohol and just to dissolve my pastel into the dark areas. And then I don't do it with every painting, but I do it with a lot of paintings. And that enables me to work on top of that without dirtying my pastels, my lighter colours, my middle colours. So that is one of the techniques that I use, and I can do that because this particular paper enables you to work both wet and dry. So you can work acrylics on this board, no problem. Or you can work watercolour and then put pastel on top of that, multimedia if you want. And it's just a great media to work with pastel. And that's because it's about that thick, you can see, about 2 millimeters. And it's like a carpet. If you ever drop something on your carpet, you know it goes down to the bottom of the pile. And it's hard to get it up again, especially if it's liquid. And this is very much like that. So it's piled. And that enables you to layer your work. So when you layer your work, you get this effect of realism. And it brings the important features to the fore. Because if you're just painting flat, I mean, you're not really expressing what you're seeing. So this enables you to layer, build up those layers, and make it three-dimensional. So
I
that's
want to
an easy
save a little
So
time for questions.
I use soft pastel, and I use pan pastel. Any of you know what a pan pastel is? It comes in a little cassette. There's a creamy texture to it. When you open the cassette, you would use a little applicator, which looks like a palette knife that an oil painter would use, but it's plastic, and it has a little sponge tip on the front, and you can change those. So you put that in your pastel and you paint just like you would normal paint. And that's the best way to start with pastel. If you're used to painting, then that's what I'd recommend is pan pastels. And then you can work your soft pastels with that, and all work together. And
So let me ask you
pencils.
another
Pencils.
question. Sorry.
Pencils.
I did ask a
So
question.
you get the fine
Did
detail.
I mention we've been married 25 years?
Get the fine detail in here. I use pastel pencils, and it gives me the detail in it. So three different types of pastels, pan, soft, and pencil pastels. Right.
Okay. So I did the math. You've been painting more than 40 years. So what inspires you to still keep painting and still come up with new stuff?
Well, I think people like your work, you want to paint. And that's my objective here, is to please people. So if I didn't sell work, I wouldn't be able to paint, because I wouldn't be able to collect these. I mean, where would I keep them? You know, I need a warehouse. You know, if you paint and you don't sell, you collect. So I don't want to be a collector. So I enjoy selling to people, and I appreciate people who buy art and who love art like I do. And it keeps me motivated.
Yeah. He's got a website, so he's had people contact him that bought paintings like 40 years ago. And just to tell him, okay, here's where your painting is now, and we'll take a little picture of it or ask for evaluation.
Yeah, so just two experiences recently on my website which were kind of interesting. One person contacted me, was from South Africa originally, bought a painting from me, and he said, I don't know if you remember me, but I bought a painting from you and I couldn't afford it. But you let me pay it off with 3 post-dated checks. And he says, I just want to tell you that I've now moved to Switzerland. I still have the painting, and it's over our bed in the bedroom. He had a photograph of it. So, that's interesting. And he bought that painting in 1984. So he's contacting me now in 2026. And it's just nice to know that your work has gone somewhere. Because I often wondered about, I paint this, where's it going to end up? And in 40 years from now, where will it be? And I think like that. I think back on one of the paintings I've done. I wonder where that one is. So another one was, this is an attorney in Cape Town. He attended an estate sale and he bought a house. And he says inside the attic is this painting, and he took a photograph of it. And I painted that in 1983. And he said to me, I just want to know where it is. Where did you paint this? I got back to him and said, well, that was Storms River Mouth on the Tsitsikamma Wild Coast in South Africa. He says, I thought so. And then he said, well, I just want to tell you our story. This is him and his wife. He says, my wife and I, his wife was Michelle, he says, we got engaged at that very spot in 1983. So that was the value of putting a date on all my paintings. And I used to do that. I don't do it anymore. But I used to do that, and I'd always put there 1983, 1984. And so I guess if I hadn't done that, he might not have looked me up. And so, that's the value of having customers and people coming back to you. And it just gives you an appreciation for, painting.
It's good to know that people still value it all those years later.
That's right, and it gives you the personal satisfaction of knowing that there's some value in it. It's not in a garage sale.
So before I turn people loose, a lot of times people like to ask, your paintings here today, which one is your most favorite? But I feel like that's, which is your favorite child? So how about, is there a painting or two that you'd like to tell us more about it, something about it?
No. This is the one that everybody is sort of eyeing at the moment, right? So this is Athena, and she was a matriarch. And I say she was because they haven't seen her for a while. They've assumed that she might have been taken down by poachers, and you can see why. I mean, there's costs. But her lifespan has been remarkable. She's led that herd, and this herd is behind her, and they literally step in her footprints as they follow her. That's how loyal they are to the matriarch. But she in turn protects the herd, and she'll take them through a droughted area. They just come from a droughted area, and they're going into a lush savanna. And she knows the way. She knows where all the water holes are, and she can protect the herd. And at night, they'll gather around, corral around the smaller baby elephants, and they'll form a protection unit. So they really are remarkable animals. An elephant, very sensitive, and they know one another so well that one had to die. You've heard of elephant graveyards. I mean, they'll sniff around the bones and they'll know this is someone from their herd. So, I enjoyed painting that because I just wanted to highlight the African queen.
Maybe we can open it up. Does anybody have a question for us?
I have about a half a dozen questions. I have two about, number one, did you have art training as a young man?
it's a good question. It's a good question. I wish I had, but I didn't. No, I didn't go to art school, and I just never had time for that, I guess. But I did do art at school, at primary school.
So you're basically self-taught, right?
Yeah, and I got an award or two. So my dad said to me, "Well, maybe you're going to be an artist one day." I said, "Well, I don't know." Yeah.
And the other one you were talking about, the elephant, what's your reference? I mean, you take a picture of that elephant, or I mean, how did that?
If I do research, you can find pictures of elephants like Athena. You know, if you know their names, you can research. So I've used a research picture here, and I just painted it myself. Just added some trees and grass, just to give it a setting, you know.
I'm assuming that for your seascapes, you take a photograph and work from them.
Yeah, I do.
But a lot of these look like, for instance, the one next to Natalie, it looks like you're up in the air somewhere, like maybe you're in an airplane flying over and you shoot these. And
Yeah.
some of them, like you're standing out in the middle of the ocean. How do these photographs come about?
Yeah, so I used I think 3 photographs to paint this. So I had been up on the lookout.
That's Arch Rock Cove Lookout.
Yeah.
And there is a spot, if you go on their little trail, that you do see that, but you have to use your artistic license to take away the trees so that you can see it.
There's actually a big tree in the
Yeah.
So I had to compose it, if you like, just using several photographs. And as you can see, that's an oil. So I've been asked a dozen times. You only work in pastels. I have worked in oils, but I don't work in oils as much as I like to work in pastels, and that's because of the drying time. Just a little impatient. I want to carry on working on painting.
Alana?
I'm just wondering, when you look at a blank canvas and you have an idea or a photo or whatever you're going to do, what's your first thought? When you go to make the first stroke, what are you thinking? What's your first?
Well, I hope the canvas is big enough for work. I'm going to get everything on it.
Do you start center? Do you start outer? Where do you begin?
You know, I generally start with skies because this is just a mess I can put in, and then I can start working in the middle ground, you know. And you know, I don't want to end up smudging any of my work down here, so I tend to work from the top down. I do that with pastels as well.
I got a question.
Yeah.
As an author, a lot of times we ask our other authors, what do you want the reader to feel when you close that last chapter? So do you have something that you want to say to the people who look at your pictures, like the horses? I love horses. I just, you know, they thrill me. So is there something that when you create this, you're wanting to say to the people who look at your art?
Well, depends on which painting we were
Yeah, pick one.
Yeah, I just want people to be there. You know, if they could see themselves in these scenes, I think that's what draws them to the work.
Yeah.
I mean, Richard here has bought a few paintings of mine, and he could see himself there, I'm sure, Richard. Like the Myers Creek scene that you recently got. He had been there, so Richard hadn't been there, and he's not associating himself with what he's seen. So I think that has a lot to do with it. If you've been there, I'm pretty sure you'd appreciate what you're looking at.
So you want to take,
That'll be your closing.
you want to take them there?
Yeah.
See yourself there.
See yourself there.
When talking about your technique, you mentioned being able to achieve realistic effects and using 3-dimensional. I think this elephant is just incredible. Those tusks seem to stick out away from the wall. How do you achieve that?
You know, that's the beauty of pastels, is they kind of glitter in the light. I mean, it's microscopic, but it's there. It's little crystals when you sort of break it out or put it down on paper or on board. And I just went over several times with my pastel. So there's quite a lot of pastel on here. It's layered. So I layered the darker areas down first. I didn't want that to be too prominent, and then I worked my lights on there because I wanted it to stand out.
Liz, if somebody was thinking about trying pastels, would you have some advice that you would give them?
I think pan pastels is a good place to start if you want to paint, if you're a painter, because you can effectively paint with pan pastels. You use these little applicators that you can get that like a knife, like a palette knife, and you can spread and apply it just like you would paint, and it's flowing, it's very flowing, it just moves with your palette knife. So that would be a good place to start. Soft pastels are a little different because when you work with them, there's a lot of blending involved, and you can't really blend colours to get a colour to work with. But with pan pastels you can. So if you take your pan pastel and you mix up a colour, you can mix up another colour and another one, and you can blend them all together, and you'll end up with, you know, a blended colour, just like you would with an oil painting. So, you know, that's a good way to start, I think. If you want to move from painting oils or watercolour to pastel, that's probably what I'd suggest.
Great, thanks. He also wanted me to mention, he's got a sign over here, he's gonna start doing a little newsletter, maybe once a month, but new pieces, here's a story, here's something behind the scenes, so if you're interested, you can scan that QR code and give us your email. He said that he's gonna give away, of everybody that signs up this month, he's gonna give away a print at the end of the month in a random drawing. So if you're really digging it and wanna know more, that'd be one way to connect. Any more questions before we turn you loose? I know you've got other locations. No?
You have paintings here of horses, elephant, and Cape Buffalo. Where's the zebra?
It's in our living room.
That's what I asked. You have some fantastic zebra pictures.
You've seen that, yeah?
Yes.
Next time. Yeah, Bill, don't have enough space.